You ever feel that tug in your spirit? That deep down stirring, like something or someone is calling you to rise, to move, to act, to step out of your comfort and into your calling. Let me tell you something right now. This isn't just a feeling. This is God's urgent call. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now, right now. Because the world, this hurting, broken, searching world, doesn't need you someday. It needs you today. You see, we're always waiting. Waiting for a sign. Waiting for approval. Waiting for the perfect time. But listen to me. God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And if you've been waking up with a burden, if you've been seeing injustice, confusion, pain all around you, that's not just life. That's your assignment. God doesn't waste time whispering to people who won't move. If you hear Him, if you feel Him nudging you, it means He sees something in you that you don't even see in yourself yet. He's saying, you are the answer. You are the light. You are the voice, the comfort, the breakthrough someone's been praying for. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be available. I get it. Fear will try to paralyze you. Doubt will try to convince you you're not enough. But God never said, go when it makes sense. He said, go. Just go. And I'll go with you. We're living in urgent times. People are lost. Families are breaking. Hope is running thin. And God is looking for someone who will say, here I am. Lord, send me. So why not you? Why not now? You don't need a platform. Your obedience is the platform. You don't need applause. Your purpose isn't about recognition. It's about responsibility. You know, when God calls you, He's not making a casual suggestion. He's not tossing out an idea to consider. When life slows down, He's not waiting on your calendar to open up. He's calling you because there's an assignment with your name on it. And it's urgent. It's timely. It's now. We've gotten so used to delaying purpose, so used to postponing obedience, that we don't even realize we're telling God, maybe later. With our actions, we say yes with our words, but wait with our feet. And heaven doesn't move on hesitation. It moves on faith. God's call It's not something we treat lightly. It's not just about preaching or platforms or titles. It's about being in position, being aligned, being ready to respond, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs us something. You don't have to understand every detail to move. You don't have to see the whole staircase to take the first step. When God says move, when He says speak, when He says give, when He says go, you don't need a 5-year plan. You need obedience. The problem is we confuse preparation with procrastination. We think, I'll answer when I'm stronger. I'll go when I'm smarter. I move when I'm more spiritual. But God isn't looking for your perfection. He's looking for your surrender. And delayed obedience is still disobedience. Moses tried to wait. He said he couldn't speak. He said he wasn't qualified. But God didn't call Moses because he had a voice. He called him because he had a heart. He called him because there were people suffering, crying, dying, waiting for someone to show up with God's power, God's love, God's message. When God calls you, He's not just thinking about you. He's thinking about the people connected to your assignment. The people who need your courage, your story, your obedience. And if you delay, if you hesitate, you have nothing. You're not just stalling your own growth. You're holding up someone else's breakthrough. We don't have time to play it safe anymore. We don't have the luxury of waiting for the stars to align. When God calls, eternity is on the line. Purpose is on the line. Souls are on the line. Sometimes we say, we're waiting on God, but God is waiting on us. Waiting for us to trust Him enough to say, yes, before we know what's next. Waiting for us to walk. Even when the road looks rough. Waiting for us to act even when fear whispers, don't. It's not about confidence in yourself. It's about confidence in Him. And when He calls, He already knows your flaws, your past, your weaknesses. But He still calls you anyway. Because your limitations don't limit Him. We've got to stop treating the voice of God like background noise, like an optional notification we can silence, because His voice is life. His voice is direction. His voice is the compass pointing you to your destiny. And every time you ignore it, You drift. You stall. You settle. The enemy's greatest strategy isn't to make you sin. It's to make you stall. To make you comfortable in delay. To make you call waiting wisdom. When really it's fear dressed up in logic. But let me ask you this. What if the door you're waiting for is on the other side of your movement? What if the answer to your prayer is tied to your first step? What if heaven is ready and all it's waiting on is your yes? There are divine moments in life, moments that won't come back around, windows of grace, where God opens a door, nudges your spirit, and says, now, not later, not next year, now. And if you miss it, if you delay, if you dismiss it, you may find yourself wondering why you feel stuck, why you feel distant, when really you paused, when you should have pressed forward. God's call comes with urgency because it carries purpose, and purpose doesn't wait for your comfort. It demands your commitment. Sometimes we're so afraid of failing God that we end up failing to follow Him. But failure isn't in trying and falling. Failure is in never trying, never moving, never stepping out of the boat because we're scared of the wind. The truth is, your yes doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be perfect. But it has to be now. Because God's timing is not like ours. And when He calls, the provision is already in place. The way has already been made. He's just waiting on your feet to catch up with His voice. We see urgency as pressure, but in the kingdom, urgency is love. God calls you urgently because He loves you deeply, because He doesn't want you wasting another second living beneath your purpose, beneath your identity, beneath your calling. So many people are looking for peace, but peace is often found on the other side of obedience. You're not going to feel settled until you start walking. You're not going to feel confident until you start doing. And you're not going to see breakthrough until you start moving. This world is crying out for answers, for hope, for truth. And God isn't dropping solutions from the sky. He's sending people, and you're one of them. When you feel that tug to start, to speak, to give, to change, that's not just a feeling, that's an instruction. And instructions are meant to be followed. not filed away for later. We don't know how many days we've got. We don't know how many moments are left. But what we do know is that as long as you've got breath, as long as you can hear His voice, it's not too late to answer. It's not too late to move. But it is too important to wait. You keep thinking you're not ready. You keep believing you're not enough, that you've got to get everything lined up just right, that you need more time, more knowledge, more strength. But what if I told you you are already equipped for your assignment? Not later, not someday, but now, right now, just as you are. God doesn't wait until you're flawless. He doesn't wait until your confidence catches up with His calling. He equips you as you walk. He provides as you move. He builds you as you obey. But the truth is, the tools you need are already inside you. You keep searching outside for validation, for signs, for confirmation. But everything God deposited in you before you were born, your gifts, your voice, your heart, your story, those are the very things He will use to impact others. We keep comparing ourselves to others. We see their platforms, their polish, their progress, and we think, maybe one day I'll get there. But God didn't ask you to be them. He called you to be you. Fully, boldly, obediently, you. And being equipped doesn't mean being finished. It doesn't mean having every detail figured out. It means God has already placed within you what He needs to work through you. And the rest, He'll develop along the way. We get stuck because we want proof before we move. We want security before we speak. But that's not how faith works. That's not how purpose unfolds. When David stepped onto the battlefield, he didn't wear the king's armor. He used what he knew, what he had, a sling and 5 stones. Why? Because God didn't call him to be Saul. He called him to be David. And some of you are trying to fight your battles in someone else's armor, trying to live your calling in someone else's lane, trying to serve your purpose with someone else's voice. But the power isn't in imitation. The power is in authenticity, in using what God gave you. What do you have? Don't overlook what's in your hands just because it doesn't look big enough. Don't ignore your gift just because it's quiet or different or not flashy. God uses the small to defeat the strong. He uses the humble to shake nations. He uses the broken to heal the hurting. And if all you have is a yes, He can work with that. When God gives you an assignment, He doesn't just see where you are. He sees where you're going. He sees the people you'll reach, the doors you'll walk through, the chains you'll break. So don't talk yourself out of it, because you don't see what He sees yet. You've already got the foundation. You've got the character. He's been shaping the resilience you earned through pain, the wisdom you gathered through trials, the faith that's been tested in the fire. All of that is preparation. All of that is equipment. Sometimes the reason you don't feel equipped is because you're thinking in terms of comfort. But God equips you for impact, not ease, not applause, but purpose, real purpose. The kind that stretches you, the kind that demands trust, the kind that requires boldness. There's a reason you survived what others didn't. A reason you made it through that heartbreak, through that loss, through that confusion. God didn't bring you out just to make you comfortable. He brought you out so you could lead others through, so you could speak to pain with authority, so you could serve with empathy, so you could lead with compassion. The enemy will try to convince you that your past disqualifies you, that your failures disarm you. But the very things you thought would stop you are often the very things God uses to strengthen you, to shape your message, to build your credibility, to draw people who need what only you can give. You're not lacking, you're loaded. Loaded with vision, with insight, with experience, with truth. And even when you feel like you don't know enough, God says, I am enough. And when you show up with what you have, He shows out with what He is. Stop waiting for the stage to start preparing. Stop. Stop waiting for a platform to get serious about your calling. You're already in the mission field. Your home is a mission field. Your job, your school, your neighborhood. That's your assignment. That's your ground. God isn't looking for famous. He's looking for faithful. And He's already equipped you with what you need to be that. Your voice matters. Your gift matters. Your obedience matters. You don't have to try harder. You have to trust deeper. You don't need to be louder. You need to be clearer. Clear in who called you. Clear in who walks with you. Clear in what you've already been given. We spend too much time trying to add what God has already finished, trying to earn what grace already gave, trying to build what faith is meant to unlock. God doesn't waste resources, and He doesn't give gifts for decoration. He gives them for activation. Every struggle you've faced has been a sharpening. Every setback has been a setup. Every delay has been development, and you are more prepared than you know. You're not behind. You're right on schedule. You're not lacking. You're being refined. And everything He's allowed, everything He's withheld, has been part of the equipping process. You've already got what it takes to start. Already got the voice to speak, the hands to build, the heart to serve, the mind to lead. You just have to believe it long enough to act on it. You just have to say yes, not when you feel more ready, but when you feel Him pulling you forward. We've confused humility with hesitation. We've mistaken insecurity for wisdom. But it's not pride to say, God equipped me. It's not arrogance to say, I'm ready. It's faith. It's stewardship. It's obedience. God doesn't light your fire for it to sit under a basket. He doesn't gift you to hide behind excuses. He doesn't fill you just to watch you stand still. There are people waiting on the version of you who understands you are already equipped. Not in theory, but in truth. Not someday, but today. We spend so much time waiting for the right moment, waiting for the right people, waiting for the money, the degree, the opportunity, the applause, the clarity. But what if the waiting isn't wisdom? What if it's fear dressed up in faith? Talk. What if it's delay in disguise? What if your miracle is on pause because you keep waiting for perfect conditions? The truth is, there's no such thing as the perfect time. There's no such thing as perfect alignment in the natural, because doesn't move on conditions. Faith moves on conviction. And God never told you to wait until everything felt easy. He just told you to trust Him, to move when He says move, to speak when He says speak, to act even when you feel unsure. We've trained ourselves to wait for signs in the sky, doors to swing open on their own, every problem to vanish, every detail to make sense. But what if God is saying, I already gave you the word. Now I'm waiting on your walk. What if the delay is not in the process, but in your decision? Noah didn't wait for clouds before he built the ark. He didn't wait for confirmation from people who had no vision. He moved based on a promise, not a forecast. And sometimes that's exactly what obedience looks like. Building when others laugh, moving before the storm, trusting before the rain. We pray, God, use me. And then we sit still. We say, God, I'm ready. But only if it looks like how we imagined. And the problem is, we've idolized ease. We've made comfort our confirmation. We think if it's hard, it must not be God. But that's a lie. Sometimes the presence of pressure is proof that you're right where you need to be. Sometimes the resistance is not a stop sign. It's a reminder that what you carry is powerful, that the enemy sees the potential, and he'll do anything to get you to wait just a little longer, to second guess yourself one more time, to pause, to delay, to hesitate. Purpose doesn't wait on preference. Your calling doesn't wait on comfort. And breakthrough doesn't wait on your schedule. There are assignments connected to your yes. People tied to your obedience. Miracles on the other side of your action. And every time you choose to wait, instead of walk, you risk missing what God prepared right here, right now. Stop telling yourself you need more time, when what you really need is more trust. Stop waiting for fear to go away before you move in faith. Fear is not your enemy when faith is your guide, because fear may speak, but it doesn't get the final word. Obedience does. Courage does. Faith does. Think about Peter. He didn't wait until the water felt like concrete. He didn't wait for a manual on how to walk on waves. He stepped out of the boat while the storm was still raging, while the wind was still blowing, while the waves were still moving. Because when Jesus says, come, you don't wait for silence. You step even if your knees shake. The danger of waiting for perfect conditions is that you may sit still forever. You may talk yourself out of the very thing God called you to do, Because perfection is an illusion. And hesitation becomes a habit, a way of life, a reason to avoid the risk that leads to purpose. Some of you are waiting for everything to settle down before you build, before you write, before you launch, before you forgive, before you start again. But what if God is asking you to build in the middle of the storm? To plant when the ground still looks dry? To speak while your voice still trembles? To lead even when you feel unqualified? God doesn't wait for calm to call you. He calls you to bring calm into the chaos. He calls you to bring light into the dark, to bring hope into the pain. And if you keep waiting for it to feel right, you might miss the power of walking by faith and not by sight. Sometimes the perfect moment is hidden in obedience, not in conditions. Sometimes the clarity comes after the movement, not before it. You're waiting for the door to open. But the door is waiting for you to knock. You're waiting for confirmation, but God is waiting for participation. There's power in your presence, in showing up when it doesn't make sense, in stepping forward when logic tells you to sit down. Because God doesn't operate on human timelines. He works in faith. Time, he honors the bold, the obedient, the surrendered. Don't let the desire for perfect timing rob you of present purpose. Don't let the fear of failure keep you from walking into freedom. God isn't asking you to do it perfectly. He's asking you to do it faithfully, to trust him when it looks messy, to follow him when it's unclear, to move when he says move. You've been equipped. You've been prepared. You've been anointed for this moment. And the enemy wants you distracted, wants you stuck in planning, in overthinking, in waiting for one more thing to fall into place. But God's not looking for planners. He's looking for pioneers. People who will step out even if they don't have it all figured out. People who will build even when others walk away. People who will trust even when the outcome is unknown. Sometimes the move of God looks like a risk. Sometimes it feels like a stretch. But that's where the growth is. That's where the testimony is. That's where the miracle is not. You're not in waiting for perfect conditions, but in trusting the one who called you, in spite of the absence of resistance. Faith is not the absence of resistance. It's the persistence to move anyway. Faith is not the elimination of fear. It's the decision that obedience matters more. God will meet you on the move. He will meet you in the step, in the action, in the motion. You can't steer a parked car. You can't light a fire that never gets sparked. And you can't fulfill a calling that you keep postponing, not because you're not called, but because you're still waiting when God already said go. There are people right now crying in silence, breaking behind smiles, waiting for hope, searching for answers, begging God for a sign. And you're it. You're the answer to someone's prayer. Not someday. Not when you feel more ready. Not when everything looks perfect, but now, right now. Because God works through people, and sometimes you are the one. He chooses to carry the light, to bring the word, to lift the weary. You keep asking God to do something, but what if He already did? What if He sent you? What if He placed you in that family, in that job, in that neighborhood? Not by accident, but on assignment. And you're not just there to survive it. You're there to shift it. You don't have to be a preacher to carry purpose. You don't need a platform to be powerful. You don't need a microphone to be a messenger. You just need a heart that's willing. A spirit that's surrendered. Eyes that see beyond yourself. And ears that are tuned into God. There's someone who needs your story, your scars, your survival, not your perfection, not your image, but your truth. Because real ministry happens when real people show up. When the broken comfort the broken. When the wounded speak life. When the delivered speak freedom. Stop waiting to be more impressive and start being more available. Stop waiting to feel perfect and start being present. God doesn't use perfect people. He uses present ones, people who say, I may not have it all together, but I'm willing to be used. I may be healing, but I'll help while I heal. I may still be figuring it out, but I'll show up anyway. Because showing up is ministry. Kindness is ministry. Listening is ministry. Praying for someone when they never asked is ministry. You don't have to be famous to be faithful. You don't have to be known to make an impact. God sees what others overlook. He honors what the world dismisses. That phone call you've been thinking about making. That message you've been meaning to send. That encouragement you've been holding back. It's not random. It's God prompting you or nudging you because someone is hanging on by a thread, and your voice, your word, your love, but could be the reminder that they are not alone. You keep looking at the world and thinking, somebody needs to do something. And God is saying, I sent you, not with all the answers, but with the heart to care. Not with all the resources, but with the willingness to give what you have. Because sometimes the miracle isn't in what you have, it's in what you're willing to give. Moses had a staff. David had a sling. The widow had a jar. The boy had 2 fish and 5 loaves. None of it looked like enough. But in the hands of God, small becomes supernatural. So never underestimate what you carry. Never downplay. Your offering, your time matters. Your words matter. Your presence matters. And don't assume they're okay just because they act strong. Don't assume they don't need help just because they never ask. Some of the strongest people are silently screaming. And you might be the only one who notices. You don't need to fix everything. You just need to be there. You just need to care. You just need to love without condition. Love that listens. Love that shows up. Love that stays. Love that gives without expecting anything back. That kind of love, that's where God moves. That's where lives change. That's where chains break. God didn't place you in your circle, your community, your connections by mistake. You're not there to blend in. You're there to build, to bless, to shift atmospheres, to bring light into dark spaces. And the moment you realize it's not about you, everything changes. It's not about being enough. It's about being available. It's not about how much you have. It's about how much you're willing to give. Because there is power in presence. And someone's breakthrough might be waiting on the other side of your yes. So, go ahead and forgive. Go ahead and reach out. Go ahead and show up. Go ahead and speak life. Because you never know. You never know when your words will become their turning point. You never know when your kindness will be the answer to their silent prayer. Stop underestimating the power of your obedience. Stop assuming God will send someone else when he owes someone else. When he already sent you, you are not too young. You are not too old. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are exactly who God needs, exactly where he needs you. If you'd only be bold enough to say yes. And yes, it might cost you something. Yes, it might stretch you. Yes, it might inconvenience your plans, but obedience is never wasted. And the reward of purpose is always greater than the comfort of playing it safe. You were born for impact. You were designed for influence, not for applause, but for purpose. And even if no one claps, even if no one notices, even if no one says thank you, God sees, God rewards, God moves through it all. That one act of kindness, that one word of encouragement, that one selfless gesture can echo through generations. Because when you move with God, your obedience multiplies. Your yes becomes someone else's breakthrough. Your sacrifice becomes someone else's healing. And the beauty of it all, you don't even need to know the whole plan. You just need to take the next step, because you're not called to understand it all. You're called to trust, to love, to go. And sometimes going means texting back, calling up, showing up, and letting your life say, I'm here, I care, I see you, and you matter. There's no such thing as small impact when God is in it. Every seed sown in love, every moment offered in truth, every sacrifice laid down in obedience becomes a part of his greater plan. So don't stay silent. Don't hold back. Don't wait for someone else to step up, because God is saying, I put it in you. I chose you. Now go be the answer. You don't need a spotlight to shine. You don't need a title to have influence. You don't need a stage to make a difference. Because God doesn't anoint platforms. He anoints people. He anoints hearts that are surrendered, spirits that are willing, hands that are open, and feet that are ready to move when he says move. The world tells you you need to be seen to matter, that you need followers to be powerful. But heaven doesn't measure purpose by applause. It measures it by obedience. God uses the unseen, the overlooked, the underestimated, the ordinary, because when he places his power on it, what looked average becomes anointed. You might feel invisible right now. You might feel like nobody sees you. like your efforts go unnoticed, your work uncelebrated, your heart taken for granted. But just because people don't see you doesn't mean God doesn't. He sees every act of service, every tear you cried in secret, every time you showed up when it was hard, every moment you gave when you had nothing left, and in His hands, none of it is wasted. You're not waiting to be chosen, but you've already been called. You're not on hold with heaven. You're already on assignment. And the beautiful thing is, God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. He takes your weakness and makes it strength. He takes your brokenness and makes it beautiful. He takes your pain and makes it purpose. You keep thinking you need more education, more confidence, more approval. But what you really need is more faith, more surrender, more trust in the God who placed the calling in you before you were even formed in your mother's womb. He set you apart. He placed something eternal in your spirit. And now, He's asking you to trust what He's already placed inside you. You don't need to become someone else to be used by God. He's not asking for perfection. He's asking for partnership. He's not waiting for you to get it all together. He's asking you to walk with Him in the middle of it, because He doesn't work through perfect vessels. He works through willing ones, vessels who say, God, I'm here. God, use me. God, even if I'm trembling, I'll still say yes. The power is not in your performance. It's in your presence. It's in showing up when you'd rather hide, speaking truth when it would be easier to stay silent, loving people when you'd rather walk away. Because when God breathes on your yes, something shifts, something breaks, something is released, not because you're enough, but because He is. You don't have to wait for a bigger moment to be used in a big way. You don't have to wait for the stage to release what God has poured into you. Where you are right now, in your living room, in your classroom, in your workplace, in your everyday conversation, because sometimes the greatest impact is made in the smallest interactions. A word of encouragement, a gesture of kindness, a prayer in the hallway, a hand reaching out in love. You are more powerful than you know. Not because of what you've done, but because of who lives inside you, the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you, the same power that spoke the universe into existence dwells now you. And that power wasn't meant to be hidden. It wasn't meant to be stored up for later. Right? You're in the ordinary, in the unseen, in the mundane moments that no one claps for. You don't need fame to be faithful. You don't need to go viral to be valuable. You don't need thousands. God sees the heart, not the followers. God sees the sacrifice, not the stats. God sees the spirit behind the service. That's where things is risen on earth. That's where journey disqualifies. You've been repairs you in God. That repairing disqualifies you. Nothing growers and roller reservoir byways. Yeah. Not the struggle, not the quiet seasons. He uses it all. He molds it. He shapes it. He turns it into testimony. And that testimony has power, not just to free you, but to free others. That's why your obedience matters. Because you carry answers, you carry wisdom. From the fire you walked through, you carry comfort through. You carry valley, you survived, you carry authority. Because of what you endured, because of what you endured. Because what it meant someone. And one, burn, move on. Somewhere is waiting for the light you carry, the truth. You've lived the breakthrough you've experienced. Don't silence your story. Don't mute your message, because all of how you feel are fleeting, but your calling is permanent. And what God started in you, and what calling is started in what God started in you, nested in you. He's faithful to complete, but He's asking you to speak. He's asking you to walk boldly, even if no one else understands it yet. You don't have to convince people of what God already confirmed. You don't need everyone to want to agree. You just need to obey. You just need to believe that if God gave you just need to believe. He'll give you vision. He will also give you the provision, the strength, the strategy, the support. But you have to take the first step. Don't let fear steal your fire. Don't let doubt delay your destiny. You have been appointed, you have been an anointed, not later, not someday. But now this moment you're in, it's not random. It's not wasted. It's the space God is using to develop you, to shape you, to release His glory through you. The people around you, the space you occupy, the influence you already carry is not by accident. You've been placed there on purpose to shift atmospheres, to carry hope, to move in power, even when it's quiet, even when no one sees, even when it doesn't look impressive. That's the kind of influence heaven celebrates. Influence that's loud, but influence that's lasting, not performance, but purpose, not fame, but faithfulness. If you're faithful in the hidden places, in faithfulness, faith, Right. We were weak, but faithfulness. God will make sure your life echoes in places you never imagined you'd reach. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You don't need every detail lined up, every answer in place, every fear gone. Before you start walking toward what God has placed in your spirit, because faith is not about full clarity. It's about full trust. And when God calls, He rarely hands you the full blueprint. He gives you the next step and asks, will you move? We live in a world that demands certainty, that waits for confirmation, that fears the unknown. But heaven operates in faith. Heaven moves through obedience, not comfort, not ease, not perfection, but trust, radical trust, bold trust. That says, even if I can't see where this leads, I trust who's leading me. There's a call on your life, and it won't always come with instructions. Sometimes the call will interrupt your comfort, shake up your plans, stretch your limits, because God isn't trying to make your life easy. He's trying to make your life meaningful. He's not calling you to convenience. He's calling you to purpose. And purpose always requires movement, even when it's scary, even when it doesn't make sense, even when everything in you wants to wait for a better time. But the truth is, there will never be a perfect time. There will never be a moment where all the lights turn green, where everything feels just right. Times the door doesn't open until your foot hits the ground, until you start walking, until you say yes, not because you have it all figured out, but because you trust that God does. Faith is walking into the unknown, carrying nothing. But a promise faith is stepping into rooms where you feel unqualified, but still showing up. Faith is saying, don't know how this ends, but I know who's writing the story. So I will move, I will speak, I will go, not because I'm fearless, but because I'm faithful. You keep praying for clarity, and God is saying, take the first step. You keep asking for signs, and God is waiting on your obedience, because some doors don't unlock until you knock. Some miracles don't manifest until you move. Some answers don't arrive until you act. Faith without movement is just theory. But faith with action, that's when the supernatural begins. There's something powerful that happens when you take a step in faith. When you move forward even when your knees are shaking, heaven responds to movement. God meets you in motion, not in the safety of standing still, but in the risk of walking forward. And every time you move in obedience, you're declaring, I trust God more than I trust my fears, more than I trust my past, more than I trust what I see. Some of you have been paralyzed by overthinking, waiting on everything to feel perfect, waiting on signs to align. But God doesn't operate on your comfort. He operates on your trust. And every second you wait in fear is a moment the enemy uses to keep you still. But God didn't call you to stand still forever. He called you to walk by faith, to run your race, to build, to rise, to move. And yes, you might stumble. Yes, you might fall, but even in the fall, He's still God. Even in the stumble, He's still working. He's still writing. He's still redeeming. Movement isn't about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about walking in rhythm with heaven, even if the beat doesn't make sense to those around you. It's about being led by peace, not by pressure. Being guided by purpose, not by applause, because the moment you take that step, heaven starts orchestrating, aligning resources, opening doors, connecting people, moving things behind the scenes. But it starts with your step. There are dreams inside you. There are assignments waiting on the other side of your movement, but you'll never see them if you keep standing in fear. If you keep waiting for things to be perfect, if you keep talking yourself out of what God already spoke over you, you are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are not too broken. You are not behind. You are exactly where you need to be. If you'll just say yes. There's something about a yes that shifts everything, not a loud yes. Not a perfect yes, but a surrendered yes, a yes that says, I don't understand, but I trust. A yes that says, I'm afraid, but I'll move anyway. A yes that says, if you called me, I know you'll carry me. God isn't waiting for your confidence. He's waiting for your surrender. He's not asking for certainty. He's asking for obedience. He's not waiting on your qualifications. He's waiting on your yes. Because He can't bless what you won't move on. He can't elevate what you won't activate. The enemy loves hesitation. He loves delay. He loves doubt, because every moment you wait in fear is a moment purpose is put on pause. But the moment you step, the moment you say, I may not know everything, but I know I'm not staying stiffed. That's the moment chains breaks, the moment strongholds start to crumble. There's a generation waiting on your yes. There's healing waiting on your obedience. There's breakthroughs not because your step. It's about every person. It's about every person connected to your purpose. And when you move and move, you trust on the chain will move. They move when you rise. They rise when you speak. Chains fall off of others. That's how powerful your step is. So move. Even when it's messy, move. Even when you're scared, move. Even when you don't know where it ends, because the step you take in faith will always be met by the hand of God. He won't let you fall without. He won't lead you into something without preparing a way through it. This is not the season to sit back. We pay way through a bullet. Will lead you a season to sit back. This is the season to move. This is the season to build. This is the season to launch, to write, to call, to go in every excuse the enemy whispers. You're not ready. You're not enough. You don't have what it takes. They all crumble under the truth that God is with you. And if God is with you, what can stand against you? You might not feel ready, but God doesn't need you to feel ready. He needs you to be willing. He needs you to trust Him more than you trust your doubts. He needs you to believe that if He called you, He has already equipped you, because the provision is in the path, and the path doesn't appear until you move. So move in faith, move in trust, move in boldness, knowing that heaven moves with you. You've heard the call. You felt the stirring. You've seen the signs, the whispers in your spirit, the quiet urgings that won't let you stay where you are. And deep down, this isn't the time to wait. This isn't the time to hesitate. This isn't the time to second guess yourself or sit on the sidelines of your own calling. This is the moment to rise. This is the hour to respond. This is God's urgent call to your spirit. Not tomorrow, not next year, but now, because there's too much at stake for you to stay still. There's too much locked inside of you for it to remain dormant. You've carried words that need to be spoken, gifts that need to be poured out, love that needs to be shared, wisdom that was born in fire that someone else needs to hear. You are the answer to a prayer someone is crying out right now. And you may not even realize it, but your story, your scars, your obedience, they all carry weight. They carry breakthrough. They carry transformation, because God didn't bring you this far to let you stay silent. He brought you through to be a voice, a vessel, a light in the dark. And yes, you might still feel unsure. You might still feel unqualified. But the beauty of God's call is that it's not based on your perfection. It's based on His power. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be willing to follow. And when you do, when you step into the unknown with nothing but your faith and your yes, you activate something eternal. You step into alignment with heaven. You walk in rhythm with the one who called you, who formed you, who appointed you for such a time as this. So take the risk, say the thing. Go after the dream. Show up with your full heart. Release the weight you've been carrying and run after the purpose that's been chasing you, because this world doesn't need more silence. It needs more truth. It doesn't need more fear. It needs more faith. It doesn't need more waiting. It needs more warriors than you. Yes, you have been equipped for this moment, anointed for this assignment, chosen for this generation. You don't have to be loud, but you do have to be clear. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be present. You don't need a massive platform to make a massive impact. You just need to show up with your heart open, your mind surrendered, and your spirit ready to be led, ready to be used, ready to be the answer that heaven is releasing into the earth. And don't you dare believe the lie that your obedience doesn't matter. Don't you let discouragement make you small. Don't you let delays convince you you missed it. Because as long as you have lungs, there is still purpose flowing through your veins. And it's not too late. It's not too far gone. It's not over God's stories with broken ink. He still parts seas for trembling feet. He still makes giants fall with shepherd boys, and he still uses ordinary people to release extraordinary change. You were never meant to just exist. You were meant to shift things, to wake people up, to into dark rooms and to walk into dry places and carry water, to speak in cows and carry to speak into this. To in peace. when people water left, when we see you're less. When you decide to believe that your life holds value, your voice holds weight, and your presence holds purpose, everything changes. This is your moment, not because of what you've done. He is the God of right now, not just someday, not just eventually, but now. He's the God of suddenly. He's the God of open doors, divine alignments. And this is a divine moment, a holy interruption, a sacred shift. So don't go back to fear. Don't retreat when God is calling you forward. Step into the waters, even if they haven't parted forward, even if it feels risky, because if your voice shakes, yes, come into the essence of fear. It's the decision to move forward in spite of it. And when you do, you'll see God never fails to meet a step of faith. He's not asking you to have it all figured out. He's just asking for your next step, your next yes, your next move. And that move, that simple step of obedience, could be the very thing that unlocks a chain, opens a door, starts a fire, sparks a revival, not just in your life, but in the lives connected to you. Because your calling isn't just about you. It's about the lives your obedience will touch. So lean in, shake off the weight of hesitation, break up with your excuses, lay down the lies, and pick up the truth that God is with you, that He goes before you. What the be you shrek you? Your guide, your confidence, your covering. And if He's for you, what can stand against you? There is no greater fulfillment than walking in purpose. There is no greater joy than being used by God. There is no greater reward than knowing you said yes when it would have been easier to say no. And I promise you this, when you look back, I promise you this, reward. You won't regret the risks you took in faith. You won't regret the moments you stepped out when it didn't make sense. You won't regret the time you decided to trust God over your fears, because every step of obedience becomes a seed. And every seed produces fruit. Fruit that remains. Fruit that multiplies. Fruit that carries eternal value. So now, as you stand in this moment, between the familiar and the unknown, between comfort and calling, between what's easy and what's necessary, I dare you to choose faith. I dare you to move. I dare you to be the answer, not later, not when it's safe, but now, because the world is waiting, heaven is watching, and God is calling. Don't wait, be the answer.